All right, everybody pay attention.
It looks like a cereal box.
Ladies. Okay, parallelograms. Guys, we're going to be talking about quadrilaterals in this chapter, and you're going to have to remember a lot of facts about them. First, we're going to talk about all the different types of parallelograms, but first we're going to talk about just a parallelogram in general. First of all, what makes something a parallelogram? Exactly, the opposite sides are parallel. It's always easier for me to draw. I have a little cheat sheet here in graph paper, don't I? Okay. One. Opposite sides are parallel. Now, how do we indicate that? Do you guys remember how you do that? You guys remember what these arrows mean? I'm saying this is parallel to this. Now, obviously this one is not parallel to that one, so I have to use how many arrows here? 2. Okay? So I'm going to write it down over here. I'm going to kind of draw it over here. Does that make sense? The things that are true about a parallelogram. And what I'm getting ready to demonstrate is basically when I say the simple words, hey, that's a parallelogram, all of these things are true. But what makes it a parallelogram is the opposite sides are parallel. What also happens the opposite sides are also, what does that sign mean? Nope. Congruent. How do we mark that up here? Well, I make a mark here, a mark there. That means this is congruent to that, right? So now I've marked the opposite sides are what? Congruent. You know what else is true? What does that mean? Angles are congruent. It's not only are the opposite sides congruent, the opposite what? Angles are congruent. This is all by just saying, hey, that's a parallelogram. So how would I mark that? Well, this angle, which one's opposite it? That's the one consecutive to it, isn't it? That's the one opposite it. What other two angles? These are opposite angles as well, aren't they? Consecutive angles are supplementary. What am I saying here? What does consecutive mean? So this angle and this angle would add to what? And this angle would add to what? That angle and that angle would add to what? Those are all the sets of consecutive angles, are they not? So if they're beside or on top of each other, what do? Add to. They are supplementary, right. Man, that's fun, isn't it? Also, the diagonals bisect each other. What does that mean? They cut each other in. I'm getting a little busy here, so I'm going to try to use a pencil maybe to kind of differentiate the diagonals from the other. That's a diagonal, isn't it? And that's a diagonal. What am I saying that the diagonals do to each other? So this is cut in half. So 1, 2, 3. This is congruent to that. Does everybody understand that? What about here? These 4 marks are congruent to that 4 marks, right? Because the diagonals cut it in what? Yeah, I'm still going. One diagonal separates the parallelogram into 2 congruent triangles. Now I am going to need to draw another picture for this one. Just because, I drew 2 diagonals last time, didn't I? Okay. What am I saying here? If I draw one diagonal, so I'm just going to, how about we draw from B to D? What happens? It separates it into what? 2 congruent what? So what triangles would be congruent? Let's see, or triangle, let's go ABD would be congruent to triangle CDB. That's what that one's saying. Thank you so much. So by saying that's a parallelogram, how many things do I say about it? How many things do you know is true about it? 6 different things. You think that they could make a lot of different little questions from that? Yeah. So once they state that it's a parallelogram, you're expected to know that these 6 things are true, and they're going to give you questions on your homework to lead you to what? Those things being true. Okay? Has everybody got that? I'll let you in a little hint. If you look, has everybody got that now? Can you guys in the center row scoot over a little bit to the left, please? Because I'm going to shine up on the board. More, please. Turn one of those lights off, too. The other ones. Very good. Okay. Okay, now, let's look at these problems. First of all, what do they say? Find each measure. Okay, all right, what did they tell you? Well, they said parallelograms. Well, first thing, I do have a problem with this. They should have said, find, this is a parallelogram. But they are trying to say that when they say parallelograms up there, I guess. So we're going to assume this is a parallelogram. You can do this one of two ways. You can not even worry about any of this and go over here and mark all the things you know are true. What do we know is true? If it's a parallelogram, we know, let's see, 1. Opposite sides are parallel. So I know this is parallel to that, that parallel to that. Right? We also know opposite sides are congruent. So that's congruent to that. We know the opposite angles are congruent. So that's congruent to that. That's congruent to that.
And consecutive angles are
No, that and 180. So, let those two add to 180. So if this is 112, 180, how much is left for this to be? What do you think about 120?
32.
Well, think about it. 180, this was a 120, you need 60 to get to 180. KR,
27.
it's congruent to this, so that's what? KN. Intersect at point Y, so they want me to draw diagonals and having them intersect at point Y. You guys understand that's what they're saying right there? Okay. If NY is 12, N to Y, well here's N to Y, I'm saying that's 12, right? What is N to R?
12,
That would be
24.
the whole thing.
24.
Well, if I don't know what this piece is, I'm in trouble, aren't I? That's what they want me to find. However,